Chapter 47. Jacob and Haran. Genesis 29, 1-35. Then Jacob went on his journey and came into the land of the people of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field, and lo, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it, for out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. And thither were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in its place. And Jacob said unto them, My brethren, whence be ye? And they said, Of Haran are we. And he said unto them, Know ye Laban the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said unto them, Is he well? And they said, He is well, and behold, Rachel his daughter cometh with the sheep. And he said, Lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. Water ye the sheep, and go and feed them? And they said, We cannot, until all the flocks be gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. And while he yet spake with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near, and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all those things. And Laban said to him, Surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favoured. And Jacob loved Rachel, and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel thy youngest daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to thee, than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had to her. And Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for an handmaid. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, It must not be so done in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel his daughter to wife also. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah his handmaid to be her maid. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 other years. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived, and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, Surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction, now therefore my husband will love me. And she conceived again, and bare a son, and said, Because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. And she conceived again, and bare a son, and said, Now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Wherefore was his name called Levi. And she conceived again, and bare a son, and she said, Now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, and left bearing. Genesis 29, 1-35. When Eliezer went to Haran to bring back a bride for Isaac, he went laden with jewels of silver and gold for a dowry. Rebekah's dowry, Genesis 24:53. Jacob left home alone, without Eliezer's entourage. We are not told why. There was no lack of wealth in the family, so this was not the reason. Perhaps it was necessary for Jacob to run off alone, lest Esau learn of it and have him killed. A train of camels would have been quickly spotted, but Jacob going off alone aroused no alarms. He could have been checking on some herdsmen. When Jacob arrived in the area of Haran, he saw a well with 3 flocks of sheep and the boys who tended them, 3 in number most likely. Young boys normally tended sheep, and sometimes girls as well. My father, at about 5 or 6, was assigned a few sheep to tend, but in his case, streams were near for watering. Apparently, the water table was low, a drought underway, and the sun hot, and so a large flat rock capped the well to prevent evaporation. The boys could not by themselves move the rock. They were waiting for Rachel and probably others to help move the rock. This Jacob did for them. Before that, he asked about Laban, his mother's brother, and was told that Laban's daughter Rachel was coming near with their family sheep. Verse 6. Jacob first moved the stone, and then with tears of joy kissed Rachel and identified himself. Verses 10 and 11. Rachel ran and told her father, who came to escort Jacob to his house. Verse 13. Laban said to Jacob, "Surely thou art my bone and my flesh." Verse 14. Jacob, in the next month, worked with Laban, who offered to pay him. Verse 15. This gave Jacob the opportunity to raise the question of a bride, and he asked for Rachel, who was beautiful. Leah, the other sister, was, quote, tender-eyed, end quote, meaning that her eyes were not dark. The preference, then, was against blue and greenish eyes. Verses 16 to 18. In what follows, Laban is commonly abused by commentators. It is true that Laban deceived Jacob, but this is not the whole story. Rebekah had been given a very generous dowry by Eliezer for Isaac. Obviously, wealth was in the family. Whatever story Jacob could tell could not erase the fact that he had come with nothing. There was no assurance that, when Jacob returned, his parents might not be dead and Esau in possession of everything. It would have been unwise for any father to entrust his daughter to a man in such a plight. Laban clearly wanted to keep Jacob and his daughters in Haran. His actions were those of a good father. It was his hope that after 14 years, Jacob would prepare to remain. It was Jacob who offered to serve Laban 7 years as a dowry for Rachel, verses 19 and 20. He perhaps reasoned that, after 7 years, Esau might be less hostile. At the end of 7 years, Jacob asked for his bride, and the wedding was celebrated with a feast, verses 21 and 22. It was a custom to veil the bride, and so Jacob did not see that it was Leah who had been brought to his bed. In the morning, to his dismay and anger, Jacob saw that he had taken Leah. He angrily confronted his father-in-law, who said that custom required the older daughter to marry first, verses 23 to 27. This was indeed a common custom in many countries, and while perhaps not mandatory in Haran, was apparently enough well known that Jacob had no response. Laban suggested another 7 years of labour as a dowry for Rachel. Jacob agreed, and he was given Rachel as a bride the following week. Laban by this time knew that Jacob was a man of his word. Laban then gave Leah Zilpah as a handmaid, and to Rachel he gave Bilhah, verses 27 to 30. Both these handmaidens subsequently became Jacob's concubines, as Laban probably expected, and this would further tie Jacob down and make his continuance at Haran more likely. He no doubt suspected that Jacob's return to Canaan could mean his death, and this he did not want. We are told that Leah was hated by Jacob, verses 31 and 33. The word hated in Hebrew means utterly odious. Jacob felt trapped by the situation, and some of his resentment was against Leah for her part in the deception. This hatred later disappeared, and he, while preferring Rachel, came to love and trust Leah, because when he decided to flee from Haran, he called Leah and Rachel both out of the pasture land to tell them of his plan, Genesis 31:4 following. He now knew that he could trust Leah. Leah may have agreed to the marriage deception out of love for Jacob. When Jacob saw that Leah was hated, he gave her, and not Rachel, children. Leah bore first Reuben, meaning see, a son, then Simeon, or hearing, for God had heard her prayer. Levi was next born. Levi means attachment, for she hoped that these births would attach Jacob to her. Then Judah was born, the name meaning praised, and Leah said, Now I will praise the Lord. Verses 31 to 35. As we know, the Messiah came through the line of Leah, through Judah. Leah was the wife favoured by God, if not by Jacob. Leah's clear devotion to Jacob is always apparent, and God's grace to her is also obvious. Rachel's sons were Joseph and Benjamin, good sons both, but God passed over them to choose Judah for the messianic line. There was no communication between Jacob and his family as far as we know. Esau was apparently kept in the dark as to Jacob's whereabouts, and he did not know whether Jacob was alive or dead. This no doubt helped to dull his hatred for Jacob. Isaac and Rebekah had committed Jacob to God's care as God's man, and they lived their faith.